I'm Laura Blumenthal on the Berkshire Heroes podcast, and joining me today is Sara Hughes from the Samaritans branch covering Slough, Windsor and Maidenhead. Welcome, Sara.
Hello.
Now, you're the co-director for the Samaritans branch, and I think most people know what the Samaritans do. So you help callers who are in crisis and those potentially considering taking their own life. So an incredibly difficult role that you have. What attracted you to your role, and what in your background gave you that drive to take on such a difficult role?
Well, I originally came across Samaritans a long time ago. I met somebody who'd done a night duty, and now a night duty is about 4 hours. In those days, it was the whole night, and he was exhausted. And he was chatting to me about what he'd done, and it just stayed with me. From my 20s, it just stayed with me. What a wonderful thing it is. And I just have this odd feeling in that. I know we all have different beliefs and feelings, and mine is that little thing between whether you're alive or not, it's just like a candle being blown out. And and it's just such a fragile thing to do, and to take your life is so I don't know, it's a really real last resort, and there's no turning back. So I feel quite passionately about it. So it stayed with me for a long time. When the time was right, I joined, and we'll talk about training and things because it's extensive. But Yeah, so I've done it for 11 or 12 years. And then last year I was asked to be co-director, which is a huge honour. It is quite a big responsibility. The two of us look after over 100 volunteers in our branch. But it's fantastically satisfying. And at the end of the day, I'm a listening volunteer more than anything else. I'm a listening volunteer.
And what are you hearing from people calling in? Are you seeing different trends, different demographics contacting you, perhaps with new pressures and issues? And do you know how your branch compares with the volume of calls that you get compared to others in the UK?
Well, the service is completely national now. It's a centralised phone system. So we all receive the same number of calls. So it just depends how many people are on duty. We answer about 1,500 a month. So we do quite a lot. We do quite a lot of duties. The trends, really, there's a lot more mental health as you would expect. I mean, there's so much more about it in the press and what's happening around the world. And as a consequence, I think some of our callers are getting younger. But the definite thing I've seen is when I joined 10 years ago, it was a sort of blanket mental health. But now people very specifically know what they've got, what their label is.
Are you seeing changing trends to more men calling you, or people from various different backgrounds, if they've got money pressures perhaps, or family breakdown?
Not so much, no. I think the mix of men and women, possibly more men, but as we know, men are not great at talking. I think they probably find Samaritans an easier place to talk because we are anonymous. We don't know, when somebody phones us, we have no idea where in the country they are. We don't know their phone number. I think they think, the number flashes up on a screen in front of us. We have no idea. So it is very anonymous, and I think they find that quite a relief that they can talk to somebody. And when you talk to your mates, it's sort of, oh, come on, you'll be fine, let's go off to the pub sort of thing. Whereas when you talk to Samaritans, we are very much focused on how you're feeling and how you're getting through it, and drilling more into it.
So your branch, do you take calls from across the UK? You're not just taking localized calls?
No, the system changed now, so it is definitely all centralised, and we take calls from all over the country. And we also do web chat as well. So there's a web chat service, which not surprisingly, I think you find younger callers use the web chat service. There is an email service. Our branch doesn't do it at the moment, but we will be. And you can, in some branches, do face-to-face. You can pop in. So there are a lot of different services, but we are mainly on the phone in Slough.
And what do you wish that people knew about the Samaritans? What are perhaps some of the misconceptions?
I think the main thing is that you have to be suicidal to phone us. People think that I think people who know I'm a Samaritan think only call I'm speaking to is somebody who is really about to take their life, and it's very much not like that at all. You can phone us with any sort of problem. I mean, as we just mentioned, mental health. There are some dreadful cases of abuse. So we talk to people going through that, men and women going through that. LGBTQ issues are coming up, obviously, becoming more prevalent. So people are phoning us all sorts of things. So the myth that you have to be suicidal to phone Samaritans is not true.
And I know that Samaritans has done a few campaigns on debt issues specifically. Is
Yeah,
that something you see potentially rising? I mean, with cost of living, you must get so many
yeah.
pressures coming through to you.
We do get a lot of cost of living ones. That tends to come more up, I found, at Christmas, when you can imagine that people are, this Christmas, people were really struggling with cost of living, and then you get all the cost of Christmas on top of it. So the emphasis changes a bit then. But as soon as something happens, that credit is being changed at the moment, we've had quite a few calls about that, and it's quite immediate, the response you see.
And what training do you give Samaritan volunteers so they're as well equipped as possible? And what do you look for in a volunteer? What skills do they need before they approach you?
Well, a good volunteer has to be a listener. They have to be able to, really take things and absorb. They have to have empathy. And I think most of all, you have to be able to park being a fixer. If you want to be a fixer and tell people what to do and how to do it, that is not what we're about. We're really about asking questions and helping people resolve for themselves, but just talk out loud. So we're there so that they can just talk out loud. And as a consequence, the training we do, well, I don't think it's any surprise that it is extensive. A lot of people find it quite life changing. I know as a person, it's changed me in a lot of ways, how I listen to friends, how I can relate to things going on. But yeah, so there's extensive several weeks of training on different subjects. And then you are mentored for quite a long time. So you're not let loose on your own. You have somebody experienced working with you before you become a Samaritan. And even then, there's a long time when you're called a probationer. So you have to be on duty with somebody who's experienced if you get into problems.
And do you need more volunteers or do you have a waiting list? What does that look like?
We always need more volunteers. In the Slough, Windsor and Maidenhead branch, we run 3 training courses a year. And those, as you get into training, you will find it's not for you, or we might find the person who's being trained they're not right for us. The fit has to be right. So not everybody who starts training completes it. So yes, we are always looking for new volunteers, and yeah, it's an ongoing thing. And I think you would find all branches around Samaritans would say the same thing, that they are looking for more volunteers.
So if you're a volunteer, do you have to be in your branch to take the calls? Are there always a few other volunteers around, or could you potentially be on your own? Do you get breaks between taking calls?
You are never on your own. You have to, whatever we do, whether we're doing outreach or whether we're on the phones, there are always 2 of us together, so that you've got somebody to support you. When you're on the phones, the duty is usually 3 or 4 hours. There'll be somebody called a leader who's at home or in another office, and they are there to back you up and for you to download and talk about the calls that you've had and any concerns, and if they're affecting you, because we have to look after our volunteers. So the support is extensive, and then it goes up as a director. We have head office support as well. So you feel very protected, and new volunteers often say to me they're amazed at the protection that they have, and it makes you feel a lot safer and a lot more able to do the role.
Good to hear it. My cousin, she's a paramedic now, but she
Mm.
did volunteering with the Samaritans at the Bracknell branch.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you see volunteering with the Samaritans being a really good springboard for people who want to go into healthcare roles or other caring roles, and if you see that amongst the people that you support.
We do get people from other healthcare areas. To be honest, though, it's almost better if you're not. If you are training in another area, it's hard not to apply those skills, and they are very often skills where you're a fixer. So, as a paramedic, you're there to help somebody and get them, up and running, and look after them and get them to, or make them better, aren't you? Whereas we are there very much to listen. And so if you are, as I said right at the beginning, if you are a fixer, it's not for you. So we tend to find people who aren't in that world succeed more.
Really interesting.
Mm.
I wouldn't have thought you'd have said that.
Mm.
And what do you think you've learned when you've become sort of more of a listener rather than a fixer, perhaps? I'm just thinking what advice people are given to make sure they're just properly in listening mode rather than trying to give advice, because the want to help someone is so strong.
It is, and I suppose the fact that we do it means that we want people to get better and help them. But listening is so important. When people are going through a really bad time, they don't want somebody to say, "Oh, come on, it'll be all right. Do this, do that, and you'll be absolutely fine." What they want often is just to download and think out loud. They've got a whole tumble dryer of things going on in their head, and they just need to be able to pick them out one at a time and think about them. And quite often that helps them resolve themselves.
So, what are the prompts that you give people when they're on a call to you? Do you just try to listen and say as little as possible? Do you ask them, why do you think that might be? Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, it's very much about feelings. The main thing we will always ask is, how does that make you feel? And then drill down from there. Some people come with long, complicated stories. Others are very much focused on their feelings. But, something will just be dropped into conversation and we will listen to the rest of what they've got to say and then just go back onto that one thing. So we're trained just to pick up, on the key elements of what they're saying. So what might they say? They might say something about in their childhood or something like that, or that somebody has died, or and then carry on with a conversation where they are. But if you're listening hard, you could register that probably the person who's died has had a huge effect on them. So you can, how did that make you feel? And you find something to, push the conversation and help them unload, unpack what they're thinking.
And do you have a particular memorable moment in your role at Samaritans that really stays with you?
I remember when I was very first a Samaritan, um, somebody was taking their life, and it was another volunteer who'd taken the call, and I phoned for an ambulance to help them. And it was just, we, as a consequence, the two volunteers, me and this other volunteer, have got a very strong bond now. We work well together because he identified that they needed help, and so we could hear the ambulance arriving. I heard it going, and he heard it arriving, and the effect it had, and how grateful the caller was. And at the end of the day, she said all she wanted was a hug, and she was just desperate, and she identified, and yeah, and it was lovely, and it's special. It is special when that happens. Mm.
I can imagine why that stayed with you. I
Mm.
mean, how do you look after yourself and your own mental health? Because you must get a number of calls throughout the day or the evening, and then suddenly you're just back to normal life.
And it is that because of the way we're trained, you do sort of switch on and switch off from it almost. That sounds quite brutal, but you yeah, you get, all of us will have had a few calls. Most times you go on duty, they don't strike you in that way. It's just, whilst in your whole time of doing it, the years you do it, the odd call will stick with you. So I've got 3 or 4 that have stuck with me over the years. But otherwise, we take calls, we focus very much on them. We pick out the elements that we should share with the leader and how it's affecting us afterwards. If I was affected, the person who was leader when I was on duty would probably call me the next day and say, something affected you yesterday. Are you okay? So we're looking out for each other, and that's how we protect ourselves. And we would automatically say to a volunteer, if they were, if something affected them, just take some time off. It doesn't matter. You don't feel obliged. Just take the time that you need, and how we can help you and make sure you're okay.
I remember my cousin saying when she was a Samaritan how there was so much support and everyone was so friendly, and you
Yeah.
had excellent biscuits in the break room. So I think you're well known for that. What are you focusing on right now at the Samaritans? Anything that you're trying to improve at your branch, and how can people find the Samaritans online?
Well, if you Google Samaritans, you can imagine there are lots of ways to contact us, but the Samaritans.org website gives you all the ways to make contact. And if you wanted to volunteer at any branch, if you contact the main central office, they will direct you to your local branch, so we'd hear about it that way. As to things that we're working on right now, EDI obviously is very much prevalent in the news. So we are all focusing on a course that we're doing on EDI at different levels to make sure that we are all equipped for equity and diversity and inclusion. So that's very key at the moment in Samaritans.
Is that to support the callers or more the volunteers?
Both, both. It's to make us more aware of our callers and some of the issues that they might be going through and things that affect them, and to make us understand, if they have got some inclusion issues or something, that we can help them. And likewise, within, as you said, as a volunteer, we have a volunteer in our centre who's blind, and yet somebody has to sit and talk him through courses together. So it's how we include people and involve them. And yes, it's just making sure from both sides that we are looking after everybody.
And I've got to ask, if you were Prime Minister, which law would you introduce or change and why?
I struggle with this because I'm not, a huge one on the law. There are lots of laws about mental health, and I think you'd expect me to say it would be something around mental health. I think the main thing is getting mental health awareness into schools. Now, there are laws around that, but making sure schools are equipped with the right people in there to help the children, educate them, because it is such a growing area, and the younger her mental health seems to be getting younger all the time. So it's making sure that they're protected as young as possible.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sara Hughes, for joining me on the Berkshire Heroes podcast. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks, Laura.